Chapter 15 Invitations. Why? Hearing Dunn's words, Klein was so overwhelmed that he instinctively blurted out the words, "Extraordinary people have serious problems?" So that the judicial organs within the church, the extraordinary ones who deal with evil, are prone to problems? Dunn Smith stepped into the carriage and took his previous seat with the same expression and tone. It's not something you need to know, and it's not something you can know unless you become one of us. Klein was stunned, sat down and asked, half amused, half confused, how could the decision to join be made without figuring this out? Without joining, without knowing. It's an endless cycle. Dunner Smith took out his pipe again, put it to his nose, and took a puff. You may have misunderstood. One of our staff includes civil servants. That is to say, as long as you become your civilian staff, you can understand the relevant secrets, understand the hidden dangers and possible dangers of extraordinary people, and then consider whether to become extraordinary people. While collecting her thoughts, Klein used her own words to re-describe the meaning of the other person. Dunn smiled and said, well, except that just because you think about being extraordinary, you don't always become one, and the churches are equally strict in that regard. It would be strange not to be strict. Klein made a point of saying, in an emphatic stir, what about the civilian staff? That's pretty strict, right? If it's you, that should be fine. Dunn sniffed his pipe with his eyes half closed and his expression slightly relaxed, but he did not like the tobacco. Why? Once again, Klein was confused. At the same time, he made fun of himself. Is me special? My traveler's halo, like the firefly in the night. So bright, so outstanding. Dunn opened his half-closed eyes, gray and deep as before. Numberoni. Surviving an event like this without our help means you have something different from other people, like luck, and lucky people are always popular. Seeing Klein's glazed expression, he smiled. Well, you take that as a humorous statement, and secondly, you are a history graduate of Hoi University, which is very much needed. And although the attitude of the followers of the Lord of the Storm towards women is disgusting, his views on society, humanity, economics, and politics are still sharp, and he has said that talent is the key to maintaining a competitive edge and good development, which is the point. I agree. Noticing Klein's slight frown, he casually explained, a sigh you can imagine. We're constantly exposed to documents and objects from the quaternary and beyond, and many cults and many heresies are trying to gain power from these things. And sometimes they can lead to weird and terrible things themselves. With the exception of exceptional people in special fields, most of us are not very good at learning or are past that age. At this point, Dunn Smith pointed to his head, the corners of his mouth slightly hooked as in self-mockery. Those dull, tedious knowledge always makes people want to sleep. Even if they do not sleep, they cannot resist. In the past, we used to work with historians and archaeologists, but there was a risk of leaks and bad experiences for professors and associate professors. So it was hard to say no to having a professional on our staff. Klein nodded gently, accepted Dunn's statement, and asked him thinkingly, why didn't you just, develop one before? Dunn continued, self-consciously, this is third and last most important point. You have been exposed to similar events. Invite you, there is no breach of confidentiality issues, and develop someone else. If it fails, I will take responsibility for the secret disclosure. The vast majority of our team members, our civil servants, come from within the church. After listening quietly, Klein was curious. Why do you keep it such a secret? A lot of things published, spread out, let more people know. Cannot avoid the same mistakes happen again? The greatest fear comes from the unknown. We can make the unknown known. No, human stupidity is beyond your imagination, which leads instead to more imitation. greater chaos, and more serious incidents. Done. Smith shook his head in reply. Klein said HMM and understood. The only lesson that mankind has learned from history is that it learns nothing from history and repeats the same tragedy. Emperor Rosel's famous saying is really philosophical. Dunn agrees. Russell the Great said that? The elder traveler is really 360 degrees no dead angle to the latter leave the opportunity to dress. For a moment, Klein didn't know what to say. Dunn turned his head to look out of the carriage, where the dim yellow of the streetlight mixed with the glow of civilization. There is a similar saying in the judicial organs of the major churches. And this is probably the main reason why it is kept secret and forbidden from ordinary people. What is it? Klein was invigorated with a sense of prying pleasure. Dunn turned his head and gave a subtle tug to his facial muscles. Faith and fear bring trouble, and more faith and fear bring more trouble, until all is destroyed. With that, he sighed and said, and humans can't solve really big problems except by asking the gods for protection and help. Faith and fear bring trouble, and more faith and fear bring more trouble. Klein silently read the sentence, not quite able to understand, and then felt fear because of the unknown, not quite understanding. As if in the shadow of the street lamp outside, in the dark without light, there were malicious eyes and open mouths. With the horse's feet fast, the wheels rolling, an iron cross in sight, Dunn broke the sudden silence with a formal invitation. Are you going to join us as a civilian? Klein came up with thoughts, momentarily unable to decide, and thought, may think about it? The stakes are too high to make hasty choices. No problem, just give me an answer by Sunday. Dunn nodded. Of course, remember to keep it confidential. Don't tell anyone about the Welch incident, including your brother and sister. Violating it will not only get them in trouble, but could also lead to you going to a special court. Good, said Hermione. Klein replied solemnly. The carriage was silent again. As Iron Cross Street neared her home, Klein thought of a question and hesitated for a few seconds before asking, Mr. Smith, what are the salaries and benefits of your clerical staff? This is a serious question. Dunn took a moment, then smiled. Don't worry about it. We are funded jointly by the church and the police. The first civilian is paid 2 and 10 sous a week, plus a 10 sous secrecy and risk allowance, which makes a total of 3, not much worse than a regular university lecturer. After that, the salary will gradually increase as you advance in seniority and get credits. For civilian staff, we generally have a 5-year contract. After 5 years, if you are not willing to do it, you can leave normally. But you must re-sign a lifelong confidentiality clause. You cannot leave Tingen without our approval. And you need to find a local night watchman to register when you move to another city. By the way, there are no Sundays, only rotation. You have to keep 3 clerical staff working at all times. If you want to go to the south, to the Gulf of Dixie for a holiday, then you need to coordinate with your colleagues. As Dunn finished speaking, the carriage stopped and the apartment where the Klein family lived appeared on the side. I see. Klein turned, stepped out of the carriage, and stopped beside it. By the way, Mr. Smith, if I had thought about it, where would I find you? Dunn chuckled. Go to the Hound Pub in Beswick Street and ask their boss, right, to tell you to ask a mercenary squad for a mission. Huh? Klein was confused. Our address is also confidential, and it's impossible to tell you directly until you say yes. Okay, Klein, have a good dream tonight, Mr. Moretti. Dunn greeted with a smile. Klein took off her hat, saluted, and watched the carriage go from slow to fast. He took out his pocket watch, clicked open, see only for o'clock in the morning. The street cool breeze to send cool, for street lights dim yellow. Klein took a deep breath, taking in the stillness of the night around her. The most noisy neighborhood during the day is so cold and quiet at night, so different from the wordless gaze and psychic hallucinations of Welch's residents. Only then did he realize that the back of his linen shirt was somehow cold and wet with sweat.